Hello, everybody. Welcome in. We're just going to give it a few minutes to settle in here. There is a live chat, so we have a few team members here that will be able to talk with anybody live. Of course, we can set up individual calls with anybody, but we're going to give it a couple minutes, 2 more minutes here, and we'll get the ball rolling. But thank you all for jumping in. I see we're having everyone feed in. Yeah, I see. Chris, I saw Indiana pop up. I just was on a call yesterday with a firm from Indiana, and they said they must be the smallest estate planning firm. And I looked and I was like, no, you guys are actually like in the 20 somethings, not 50 something. So it's fun to look at all the thousands of data points on different states. Got quite a few places popping in here. I know here at Encore, we're fully virtual, all remote. I'm in California. Diego and his firm, they're in Florida, but you see Matt up there. He's in Spokane, Washington, but I think we're in like 10 different states spread out. But I saw a bunch of Boise's popping up in here. No Sacramento's. That's where the all the fun people live.
I see somebody said we're in Florida. We're actually in Miami, Florida.
Okay. Well, I think we're just about ready to get this kicked off. I wanted to first say my name is Daniel Michelson. I am Encore's VP of Strategic Relationships, and I have with me today Diego Lopez. I'll let him do an introduction of himself, but the purpose of this call today is just to talk about someone who is thinking about adding estate planning into their financial practice and what it looks like a couple years down the road. One thing that we experience talking to many hundreds of different firms every month is that you get excited because there's a problem in place, but then there's obstacles along the way. And we don't know what those obstacles are going to be until we start going through that. So, what we wanted to work through on today's call is if you're embedding estate planning, how do we work with local attorneys? How do we work with Encore's attorney network? How do we allow Encore to facilitate the basic plans to go through within my own firm if I'm a financial advisor? And that's what we're going to talk through here with Diego. So, Diego, I'll let you jump in. You want to just give a short little explanation about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a pleasure to be on here with you guys to be able to walk this through with Daniel and Matt that reached out. So my name is Diego Lopez. I'm the director of new business over for Guerra Wealth Advisors. We're a full financial retirement planning firm here in South Florida. And it's honestly been amazing what we've been able to do and set up with our estate planning department over with EncorEstate. We've been now, I think it's 2 or 3 years that we've been working through this. Started fairly quickly, picked up, and it's been amazing to work together on this. So definitely a pleasure to be here with you guys to walk this through.
Yeah, thanks, Diego. And I know you guys have been, it's not that estate planning is the only part of your practice, right? I know you
Correct.
guys have been, will you talk about just your firm in general? Like, how old is your firm? What were you doing? What services are offered through your firm any already? And then we can dive into how we added estate
Yeah,
planning.
absolutely. So as I had mentioned, we're a full financial retirement planning firm. So we kind of discuss five buckets with our clients or prospects here in South Florida. First one being investment management, so AUM, retirement income planning, asset protection, tax planning, and estate planning. So those are all the kind of five areas that we cover for our clients and our prospects. Whenever we actually have someone come in through one of our seminars, we're able to discuss in our seminars every single area of those five. So we do cover those across the board for every single client and prospect here as part of our whole package firm, a one-stop shop is what we, aspire to continue to be for our clients and their families.
Yeah, thanks, Diego. And I think, excuse me, one of the things that we always talk about here at Encore is estate planning in general. What are we looking to solve for? And that's what we'll dive into the operational side with Diego. But when you're looking at adding estate planning, if you already have local attorneys that are filling your firm needs, that's wonderful, right? I still think from Encore, we always talk about the best case solution is an attorney and an advisor working hand in hand, providing good documents, a good client experience. But what has happened over especially since COVID, clients are spread out. You can't possibly keep up with attorneys in every location. So we're left with this decision of, do we just let people not have any documents? Or do we provide something? Or do we have a hybrid of the combination of the two? And that's really how we're going to work here. And I know, Diego, where is most of your clients? I know you guys are in Miami. Will you just give us an idea of where most clients are located for you?
Most clients are located here in Florida. We do operate with in about other 16 states that we also have different clients in. So for the most part, yeah, they're more local as well. But we do have as our social media presence, and our marketing team has done a phenomenal job of getting more social media leads. We have expanded into other states and kind of broadened our horizons there a little bit when it comes to adding on prospects that are out of state as well.
Yeah, thanks. And as we start talking about estate planning, can you just tell me what led you guys to even look for another solution in estate planning? Has it always been part of the conversation with your clients? Is that a relatively recent thing? What's the beginning portion of that?
Yeah, so that's actually a great question. What initially we were not offering any type of estate planning services because when it was not on our radar, we didn't necessarily have a lot of clients asking about it, and we were still focused on our investment management side of things. But as we continued to want to have more commitment from our families, from our clients, we saw that it became a natural extension of our commitment to our kind of full spectrum financial care for clients. We realized that really a great financial plan is not complete unless it also protects a family's legacies. So when that came about, our advisors did bring to our attention over on the upper management saying, hey, a lot of conversations we're getting about how do we set up trust, our beneficiaries, the legacy goals that they have. We knew at that point that we had to now start beginning to seek how we can continue to extend that long commitment from our clients. And we did decide to, okay, we're going to have to look into an estate planning department in-house that we can serve to our clients. But one of our main concerns was how can we make sure that working with maybe a local attorney, how can we keep that same excellence that we promise our clients, right? Because now it's somebody we're working with, somebody partnering with them. We don't know what their order of operations is like, their follow up, and so forth. So at that point, we did realize about 2, 3 years ago, hey, this is something that we want to just have extended to our services. And as you know, I was talking to Daniel, we did work with a local attorney, a very great attorney at first. And it was just a matter of the amount of volume that we now started getting from the prospects so interested. Once we now open that conversation of, hey, we also are going to be providing estate planning services if you decide to jump on board with our firm, the volume was just too high volume up front. And now we saw that the service that was being provided to our clients was losing trust with us because now they were reaching back out to us, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Attorney that you referred us over to and we're working with hasn't reached out back to us and it's been 2, 3 weeks. And we started seeing that the process became now often quite long, fragmented, inconsistent with what we've been able to provide to our families. And that's when we really got onto EncorEstate, which really was just a huge game changer when it came to being able to provide the amount of volume that we did with the same amount of follow-up, same support that we would get from if there was a question, if there was anything else. So we initially started with the local attorney, and that lasted about maybe 6 to 9 months. And then we switched over to Encore once we worked with Advisors Excel. Advisors Excel had provided us over with, hey, you guys should talk to EncorEstate. And that's exactly what we've been now with EncorEstate for about 2 years, I'd say, being able to work this process out a little bit more.
Yeah, thanks for the context, Diego. And as we talk about, because I know you guys do a healthy amount of volume of planning for your clients, right? And I know estate planning isn't the only thing that they're getting there. When you
Correct.
guys are talking to, will you tell us, are these existing clients in your sharing? Hey, you need to go get your estate plan done. Are they net new clients? Who are you bringing this conversation into the mix with?
As of right now, and as of most recent, since we started offering the estate planning services, what we did is every new prospect that we are onboarding, we are now opening up our conversation in seminars initially. So we said we're going to offer this to prospects because we currently had at that time 2,400 families that we were serving existing. That we said if we open up these doors, we might not be ready for absolutely all those families to want to jump onto with these services. So let's start onboarding this with our prospects, offering these new services. And that's what we started doing was as a part of our dinner seminars, which we have about 3 a week here locally in South Florida. What we went ahead and did is we added now we used to have 4 areas. We added the fifth area of estate planning embedded into our advisors having these conversations of telling them the importance of setting up a trust and opening up conversations about estate planning if you've considered that. And that's how we started just mainly prospects. So new clients that we are onboarding, we made it a part of we usually have a 3 or 4 meeting process to being onboarded, covering taxes, covering retirement income, investment management. We now added an estate planning meeting to be able to actually just discuss if that's the services that you'd like to be a part of, then that's a conversation that we could have.
And just to make sure that I'm clear hearing you, Diego, it's not that you're running a seminar and just doing an estate plan and that's it. The estate plan is just part of the process
Correct.
of
Yeah.
after they're onboarded.
Yeah, so it's part of the 5 areas that we cover with our clients. The advisor takes about 10 to 15 minutes throughout a 45-minute hour seminar that we have, going over every single area that we now provide over to our clients, and the estate planning now being one of them.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what that process is like. So you're running a seminar, one of these seminars, and you're talking about those 5 pillars, estate planning being one of those 5.
Mm.
Talk me through this meeting flow. So are you scheduling meetings for all of these clients during the seminar? Do you have schedulers following up with everybody afterwards? And then what is that first meeting that you're scheduling them to?
Got it. Yeah. So, like you had mentioned, we don't only have the seminar just for estate planning, particularly. It's a part of the 5 pillars that we discuss. I mean, I had mentioned they usually run about 45 minutes to 60 minutes. For specifically the estate planning side of it, we really just go over why estate planning matters, kind of just laying out the foundation of, especially in protecting loved ones. Then we briefly go over explaining what a will is, what a trust is, common misconceptions, and then we provide some real client stories that we've actually had with the services that we provide. Now, what we do is right after that seminar, we do have first appointment setters. Our marketing team has a sheet that says, hey, if you're interested in any of the 5 pillars, go ahead and set up your first meeting with us, which is what we call a discovery meeting. That's the very first meeting that our advisors have with the prospects that come from the inflow of the seminars that we had. From that very first appointment, that's when the advisor really finds out, okay, what's the real reason what was of the 5 pillars, was it all of them, or which ones were you really interested in that really caught your attention? And even though they might say 3 of the 5, or maybe they didn't even say estate planning is really important for me right now, we still walk every single prospect through those 5 pillars in 3 to 4 meetings for every prospect that comes in. So we do have appointment setters the very moment that seminar finishes. All the people that filled out and said, I'm interested in the first appointment, we tell them to select 3 days and times that works for them. And we
Okay.
do have a team of appointment setters for our firm currently that reaches out to them the very next morning.
So once that meeting gets scheduled, so let's say I attended that seminar, if someone is scheduling that meeting, are they handing me or sending me any content that I need to review prior to that initial meeting?
Initially, for the first meeting, all that we have is just very generic information about the 5 pillars that we have. So we have our CEO and owner, also Sebastian Guerra. He's the one that has videos on YouTube and content that he's collected about the 5 pillars, who we are as a firm, what's our
Yeah.
purpose, our mission and vision. Those are the content that gets provided over to them initially, right before the actual first discovery meeting that we have with them.
Okay, so for you, there's someone running that seminar. It's someone different for you that's the appointment scheduler, it sounds like.
Yes.
And then who is the person is that one of your financial advisors that's then running that initial discovery meeting?
Yes, correct. So our wealth advisors here, we have 9 wealth advisors here at the firm currently.
Okay.
Each one of them now has a meeting depending on, we have different tiers of advisors in T1 and T2. Depending on the assets that are coming on board, then they get scheduled on their calendars and they're the ones handling that discovery meeting and really finding out the financial needs or what were the most important pillars for them from this seminar.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. Because what I want to understand a little bit more is the internal process and the different team roles, because a lot of the people attending, there's going to be a breakup, right? There's people that are running your own practice where hey, we can shorten this down. It's your own business that you can run through it and simplify that. There's others that have lots of staff members and advisors. But I know for you, one of the things that we can talk about is at the beginning, right? It was a little bit of a different process than what it is today. And so I'll kind of work through that with you. But it sounds like so the advisor is running that meeting. Are they running through the entire process, A to Z, submitting the plan, doing everything? Or who are the different people that get involved when it comes to the estate plan?
Yeah, so the very first thing to walk you through how we first started, like I had mentioned, we started working with a local attorney. So the advisor, because it was brand new, what we would do is the advisor would say, if you're interested in the estate planning services, we're going to go ahead and actually give you the local attorney that we work with. You contact them and they'll walk you through being able to complete your trust, your will, whatever you may need. As obviously, as I had mentioned, because that wasn't working out as smoothly, the service wasn't there. We're not able to actually still promise them the service that we already provide to them for every other pillar. We then decided to go with EncorEstate, but we knew that our advisors' main priority here at our firm is to be in appointments. That is their purpose, to be able to be talking to prospects and clients. We didn't necessarily want them to be the ones submitting the plan, sending a questionnaire, and intaking all the information that's going to be needed.
Yeah,
So what we actually is we reassessed our internal team. We have our wealth management team, what we call wealth management associate or a client service representative. We had about four at the time that really three of them were going to be able to complete the work with still the same quality that we'd like to provide. And we had actually one of our wealth management associates that her prior experience was being a paralegal at an estate attorney's office. That's where she was working at. So she had the prior experience. We were going to start working with Encore. We shifted her responsibilities and really came up with this use internal resources already existing, and we asked her and presented her with the opportunity of becoming an estate planning associate in her own department internally here at Guerra Wealth Advisors. And then we started doing that. So what the process shifted into the advisor just saying, hey, an attorney's going to reach out to you, into, hey, this person's going to be able to reach out to you and send you over the questionnaire, send you general information about what's a living will, a living trust, all that information for them to be able to have it up front. And now this young lady would help them. Hey, I have a question. I don't really understand what this means, and providing them the information to walk through the questionnaire. She's the one that submits the plan, communicates over to Encore State support team, and she'd be the one that kind of takes the reins after the advisor actually presented the estate planning services.
got it. Seminar, right? Appointment scheduler books the meeting, and then they have that discovery call.
Mhm.
Is the estate plan usually the first thing, or is that later in the cycle? Or because I'm going to hit on what you just said, but I just want to understand full life
Yeah.
cycle work.
So of the five pillars, estate planning is the very last one
Okay.
in the sense of we help them set up their investment management. So any brokerage accounts, any retirement investments that we actually moved over under our, then we actually discuss any insurance products that we're going to go through, either annuities or life insurance. After we've really set up a financial plan, all the accounts that they're going to have with us, at that point, then we bring up, now let's make sure that this is all protected and your
Yeah.
legacy is protected for you and for your family. We discussed that estate planning being that fifth pillar that we bring up with our advisors.
Got it. Thank you. Thanks for that clarity. Because what I want people to understand is this is not like a quick thing of going in and out, right? Like estate planning is part of that financial plan. And
Correct.
so when you get to that fifth pillar, you walk through it. You had the seminar, they've gotten some education, then the appointment schedule, and they go through that discovery call. They've already gone through four of the pillars. In that estate planning side, I know you would link to your now department, right?
Mhm.
So talk me through what that handoff, that relationship looks like. So if I'm the advisor and I need to get and I just walked through, I onboarded a new client, and now we're getting to the estate planning section. Am I just handing the client the full questionnaire, that one of the Encore questionnaires, one of your questionnaire, and they're sending that to the estate planner, or is like how does that actually handoff work?
Yeah. So how that works is our wealth advisor actually has the meeting after they set up their accounts, their
Yep.
investments, insurance products, and so forth. They're now discussing the estate planning services. What they'll go ahead and do is if they see that the client or prospect's actually interested and they want to move forward, they'll say, perfect, we actually have our estate planning associate who's going to be able to assist you. They're going to bring in questionnaire to intake some information, and then she'll be able to walk you through the rest. So at that point, the advisor, either if the client just had to go in that moment, says, don't worry, our estate planning department's going to reach out to you, or actually physically brings in the estate planning associate. She takes over from there. What that looks like is the advisor actually, let's say that the client were to leave for that day, we're going to follow up with them. We use our internal CRM through Salesforce to be able to actually assign a new case to our estate planning associate saying, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Client is interested in setting up their trust or their will. At that point, then our estate planning associate falls in their queue and says, I have a new case that I have to follow up with. They'll reach out. Before they reach out, they actually send them an email giving themselves an introduction, who they are. They work with this particular advisor. Here's the questionnaire that you're going to need, which we actually use EncorEstate's questionnaire. The only thing that we did was added our branding, our design on the actual questionnaire, but we send that out through email. At that point, within 48 hours, that's the expectation that we give our estate planning associates. Within 48 hours, they give them a phone call, send out that email first to tell them, hey, this is like today, her name is Blanca. She's one of our estate planning associates. Hey, this is Blanca. I'm reaching out to you from Guerra Wealth Advisors. You just met with Sebastian. He's your advisor. We're interested in being able to set up your trust. I sent you this questionnaire. This is what we need to be able to fill out initially to start this now conversation of how you want to set up your trust and will. At that point, like I mentioned, Blanca at that point would help them fill out the questionnaire, and we would set up an estate planning meeting to be able to actually come in and see if everything was correct, answer any questions that they might have. That's how that works from the advisor over to the estate planning associate handoff.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I think you guys have done a good job of kind of reiterating something that we have at Encore, which is not every single client is the perfect fit for something like Encore. There's always places that we need attorneys involved and we need to disqualify plans, right? Things like if they're disinheriting children, right? Or they're above certain asset level, like we're excluding those plans from here. But where I know we're in this process, you're not an attorney, right? Blanca's not an attorney. Like, how clear is that to the client in this process? At which points are we documenting that, making sure that they understand they can go to an attorney and we'll set those up if they want someone to tell them what to do. But if they're comfortable answering the questions on their own, right? Filling out the questionnaire, just getting the documents, which a lot of people have been comfortable with, how are you documenting that for the clients at this point?
Great question. Yeah, so what we went ahead and did is, as the advisor is now presenting the estate planning services, when they do have as a part of their presentation the disclosure that we are not attorneys, we are not the ones drafting the paperwork, we're not giving any legal advice. But as soon as they actually bring the estate planning associate, we did draft a document or a kind of an agreement to disclose what are going to be the costs of the services for the estate planning services, but also very clear disclaimers and disclosures that says we are not the attorneys. Who do we work through? We work through EncorEstate. The drafting of documents is not done here. We are not attorneys ourselves. We don't provide any legal advice. Any estate planning associate is just going to be providing guidance through the process, no legal advice, just being able to give the information or clarity on any generic questions that they might have for the process. But that agreement is signed by every client that decides to move forward with the estate planning services at the time that the advisor presented the services and the client now wants to initiate that process.
Yeah, and I know you and I have talked about this idea of allowing Encore to be the place where information is entered and confirmed, and allowing, in that case that you were just talking about, Blanca to work with the individual client to make sure things are entered, rather than sending out information to the client for them to do it all on their own and just waiting for them to get it done. That's the difference that you and I have talked about of saying, okay, to actually get a completion rate and not just wait on it, right? Same thing of when we sent it off to the attorney. You guys are doing a solid number of plans, right? So waiting on law firms are notoriously slow through this process.
Yeah,
And same thing, if you're sending that, just ruins the flow. It might be a couple of years before the client gets around and you're bringing it up in the review.
correct. Yeah.
One thing shifting into here is, so you guys have at this point, last question before I talk about more of the client's journey and their workflow from a client perspective is
Yeah.
from right now, you mentioned that you actually have a department internally, right? An estate planning department.
Correct.
At what point in the process of beginning to have estate planning in the firm did that department start getting built? Was that initially? Was that after a period of time? When did you say, yep, we actually need this role specifically?
Yeah, so initially I had mentioned it was a part of our wealth management department. We didn't branch off into an estate planning department initially. We looked at our resources and from one of our wealth management associates, since her prior experience was a paralegal, she worked for an estate planning attorney's office. We shifted her into an extension of the wealth management department into saying, hey, this is still a part of our wealth management. But obviously, as like I had mentioned, we saw such a huge success and such a huge benefit for our clients from the trust perspective because setting up their estate planning, there's a lot of trust that has to go into it, a lot of sensitive information, sensitive conversations that they want to be able to have. So we saw now what we initially said, maybe two, three plans of people that are going to be interested in this. We saw it was 20, 25 plans of people that wanted to be able to actually start looking at the estate planning services. And we saw that this was definitely going to have to branch off on its own. It was not going to be able to, it was so fast paced that it grew that we knew we were going to need a second associate, but also something completely separate from the wealth management department. So I would say about 6 months in, after having just one associate as an extension of the wealth management team, we saw that we were doing on average 20 clients that were actually interested in the services and actually moving forward through the process, that we said this is going to have to be its own department. And then we actually started to look at hiring paralegals that have prior experience working with estate planning to be able to actually have a second associate, which is the route that we actually ended up taking, which is what we have now. We have two estate planning associates.
And yeah, thanks for being willing to share that information because I think that's difficult for a lot of people to see the vision of it from when you're not offering it at all. With you providing so much to all of your clients, because whenever anybody works with Guerra, they're really getting a full service. I'm working with Guerra as a client, and I know every single part of my financial life is getting talked to and catered to.
Yeah.
What does that look like? So if I'm going to onboard with Guerra as a client, how long is that going to take? Because initially from the outside, I go, wow, there's 5 pillars. This is a is this a year long to get onboarded? Is this a month long? What does that usually take you guys for your guys' time commitment with the clients to get each person on?
Gotcha. Yeah, so that's a great question. We go ahead and let our clients know. And a lot of the first discovery meeting is because we want to go through those pillars. There's going to be 4 meetings that we're going to have with you. We want to make sure that we cover the investment management side of things, taxes and asset protection, retirement income planning, and estate planning. That is about a 30 to 45 day process is what we let our clients or prospects know. And saying that every step of the way, we want to make sure we're covering every single one of those pillars. If for some reason one of those pillars you've already had set up or you're not interested in, then we actually just skip over that additional meeting that they may or may not need. But for the most part, we want to be able to cover every single pillar for our prospects. So that from the seminar, as soon as they have their discovery meeting, from that discovery meeting, we're going to determine how many of those next 4 meetings are going to be needed. And we get those scheduled out on the calendar for our clients, letting them know, hey, this is going to be your investment management meeting. Here's your asset protection meeting where we're going to be discussing this. Then we have our tax planning meeting and our estate planning. And that's the life of a client that takes from 30 to 45 days of when they're officially an onboarded client with all the services that we provide.
And it's great to hear that people are getting all of that available in one place for them, right? Instead of you guys as the advisor are the quarterback for these relationships. So when we have different professionals, that I'll always talk about this as the best case is a bunch of professionals working hand in hand getting things handled. But when we're pushing things forward, especially at such a high volume, that we need people to be at the same speed. And so there are relationships where we're going to need other professionals to jump in, but that can't always be the case for everybody. One thing going into this is when you do that, so you get to that pillar of estate planning, Blanca entered all the information in Encore. I know there's a review process, right? The deed preparation, all of that. Is Blanca the one that is Blanca a notary? Is there others like in the I know Encore we have mobile notaries nationwide, but how are you guys handling the actual execution of the documents?
Yeah, initially we have 2 meetings for our estate planning associates, which is our estate planning meeting, which is part of what at that point we've already had the questionnaire sent back to us. We just want to be able to review and then actually submit the plan on our estate planning delivery meeting, which is what we have our delivery meeting to actually now have the executed or execute the documents that were prepared by Encore. Blanca and Inidia, which are our 2 associates now, they are notaries themselves. So we do all of the notary part of it, of the documents to actually execute them here in office. So we have here the notary, the witnesses, and everything else as a part of the trust component, and that we have the opportunity to be able to have them come in, yet another opportunity to have our clients get to grow their relationship with us. We do set up that estate planning delivery here in office, or we have electronic notary, which Blanca and Anita are also certified for any out of state clients that we may have. They also handle that portion of it.
Great. And after that notary, I know, are they then sending the deeds back to Encore?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah. So they'll go ahead and any deeds that need to be recorded are then sent over back to Encore.
great. So I think there's a lot that we just talked through pretty quickly. So you guys are running seminars as your main source of onboarding new clients. And
Correct.
they're going through potentially all five pillars in that onboarding process. So you're running that seminar, there's a scheduler scheduling that meeting. There's a financial advisor, either your tier one or tier two, that runs that discovery meeting. And then when you get to that pillar, it's getting passed to that estate planning, either Blanca on the team or the other end. And are you guys hiring more going into the future, or where do you see your path for estate planning?
So our goal is to be able to expand our estate planning department. Right now, we do see, for example, with the two estate planning associates, we average about 25 clients that are actually being onboarded to the estate planning service side. So with that being said, a lot of the actual back office support, meaning the scanning, the printing, the we have a very nice presentable binder that we provide over to our clients saying, here's the estate plan that has been finalized. There is a lot of extra little details on our CRM. We're very detailed with our CRM with Salesforce, thankfully. Does a very good job of keeping a track of everything, but there's a lot of manual input on that. So we do want to be able to expand over into two interns per se or associates that will help Blanca and the other estate planning associate just get everything else completed and make sure we keep a track of everything on our CRM. But really, realistically, as a part of our goal, as we're coming to the end of this year, we've met and we have upcoming meetings to be able to, we would love to have a third estate planning associate be onboarded by next year to be able to, as we continue to, like what you mentioned, we've been so focused on the prospect, new clients incoming. Really, next year is on top of already having that, we want to make sure that the 2,400 families that we currently have under our client base also get offered these estate planning services because we now have a smooth process. We've been able to get consistent with our follow-up process and everything else. Then now we do want to open up the gates to telling all of our clients that our existing clients, hey, these are services that you can also benefit from, which was our hesitation up front because we saw so much volume from just new clients. We didn't want to shoot ourselves in the foot, offer something that we're not going to be able to deliver with excellence.
Yeah.
But now that we can and we see the benefit it is to our new clients, all of our existing client base is a main priority for next year, which is a very vast amount of volume that we see incoming that we do want to expand into one more associate into interns to be able to have that estate planning department grow.
And that took a couple of years in the building to get to
Yeah.
where you are now. Thinking about just different challenges or lessons that were learned along that path, what do you think the toughest thing was initially? Because I know you were like you built this out, right? That was put onto you, the Guerra Wealth team, and said, Diego, build this out. What was, as you began that journey, what were the obstacles you had to build out or work through at the initial start?
Well, initially, I think one of the biggest challenges or obstacles that we faced was because we were not necessarily prepared for the oncoming workload that was going to come. We were trying to kind of provide the service but offload it to an attorney that would be able to take care of it. But we very quickly found out from client complaints and everything else, not because of the service that the attorney, they just didn't have the capacity to be able to service them or the follow through on all the paperwork. Like what you were mentioning earlier, Daniel, was when it came to just sending out the questionnaire and leaving it entirely up to the client to fill out and figure out on their own was something we quickly found out that as we had maybe 15 clients that decided to move forward with the estate planning services, just fell off. We would follow up. Then the clients were like, no, I haven't had time. Nobody's called me. I don't really know how to fill this out. So we found out that we needed to put processes and follow up process in place, which was one of the biggest things that the very first few months we found out as to why we now had to have someone fully focused on just reaching out to our clients saying, hey, you were interested in the estate planning services. Let me walk you through the questionnaire. We started using automated, obviously with everything that's AI now and the automatic reminders, text messages, we started using a lot of those softwares to be able to have them, okay, this person's interested. We sent them the questionnaire. We're going to now set them up on this text campaign that's going to be sending them a message 5 days, 3 days, 2 days, letting them know until they respond. They're still going to keep on that campaign. And also now our estate planning associate having a weekly follow-up with all the people that were interested in the services. So the biggest obstacle up front was just not knowing how much follow-up was actually going to be needed, that we left it too in the hands of the client. We quickly realized they need some handholding. They need to be able to have some guidance. It's a lot of questions, a lot of different information that they sometimes don't even know how to process on their own, that just kind of guiding them through what this means. What's a healthcare director? It's a powers of attorney. What does that actually mean? What is that? And just being able to provide the information that they were not fully aware of. That was the biggest obstacle up front that we realized, hey, there's a whole department that actually needs to be in charge of this. Someone that's actually fully focused on this instead of just having it as an extended service. But extended service to us meant it wasn't going to operate at the excellence that we are promising our clients. So we had to actually dedicate internal resources to someone taking care of that.
And looking back as you started, was there anything that if you were to do it all over again, what would be your first kind of, if you're thinking, okay, I got to start again, but I can have all the knowledge that you've gained the last 2, 3 years,
Yeah.
where would you start in that process? Would you start with hiring? Would you start with a few clients and then hire? How would you think about beginning all over again?
Yeah, I think what we tried doing was before hiring someone, we overcomplicated how simple it was, if that makes sense. So what we went ahead and said was all our advisors just start with some clients, and we weren't really prepared for actually having all the questions that we were going to receive in return. We looked internally because hiring without actually knowing if it's going to be successful or not is sometimes the scary portion of it, of saying, hey, I don't want to allocate resources into something that I know is not going to be beneficial both for our client, but for the firm as well. So that was a lot of our hesitation up front. But what we weren't seeing was the amount of trust that we're going to be receiving from our clients. And the second part was being able to just look internally and allocate existing resources, which is exactly what we did with our wealth management associates. We had four of them, one prior experience on the estate planning side, that we just didn't necessarily outsource or go and hire someone new. We just reallocated internally with our team. And that worked very well for us. That I would say if looking back, I would still do the same thing, but not hesitate so much in starting it sooner. Because I think one of the biggest things for us was up front, we wanted to be able to do everything, have everything 100% covered. And nothing is ever perfect. We didn't start finally perfecting things until we actually started it. So we actually should have started much, much sooner. But our hesitation was like, we don't know this, we don't know that, we don't have this. And because of that, we hesitated so much that we delayed a lot of this great service to our clients and to our client database because we just wanted to have everything 100%. We were at 70%, we were more than ready to just start using that with especially new clients onboarded, but we waited too long. So if I'm looking back, I would start that a lot sooner and tell you it doesn't have to be 100%. You definitely have a lot of things to kind of square out. But if you're 70%, 80%, just already started because you're going to see the benefit immediately day one.
Yeah, thanks for the honesty and transparency. And I think when you get to you doing 20 plus plans in any given month, there has to be systems in place with that, but you didn't start there, right?
Right.
So it took some time to build that out. There's a lot of information. And I know that for our webinar for today, we just wanted to focus on Diego has built out a great team that's actually running through and they're handling a lot of plans, navigating through this. But I did want to share just briefly before we finish out is when we talk about this estate planning side in Encore is from Encore's perspective, we disqualify plans that aren't a right fit. There's not going to be plans that are a fit for everything. There's going to be disclosures that need to get signed along the way. There's also going to be times where we're just going to say, hey, go talk to an attorney for that if it looks complicated. Now, when plans are coming through, what Encore has provided is you can create those documents, but there's also going to be an attorney network that's available. And we didn't spend much time on that today, but
Yeah.
we have an attorney network where they don't work for Encore. They are independent law firms all across the country where someone like Diego's running through, Blanca fills in the plan, and that client wants an attorney to review it, or they want a Zoom call with an attorney. There's options through Encore system where the client pays for that and they get a 30-minute Zoom call with a local attorney, or they get an attorney to review those documents for them. So there are these capacities of us saying, okay, we want to make sure that the highest level of service is there, but we see so many firms like Diego that you want to do what's right for your client, but we just can't find attorneys. And he mentioned 19 states. If they can't even keep up a good relationship in their home city, how are we going to do that in 19 other states where we're not on the ground doing it? And I think that's what we're focused on here is finding ways to provide quality services to the clients and not being afraid to loop in attorneys when it's required for it. You're going to be required if you work with us to do trainings. There's required training to work through. We have a knowledge base with hundreds of resources. There's an academy built out where it'll walk through estate planning 101, beneficiary designations. There is everything available. As Diego, who's already run through all of this training, his team has run through all of this training. Anybody else, as you hear this, the commitment to working with Encore is not a monetary one. There's no DocuSign, there's no dollar amount commitment. It's free. Anybody can go create an account today. Now, the commitment is, am I willing to learn a little bit? Because you can't tell the client the answer, right? The difference between working with an attorney and working through the Encore side is saying, hey, client, great. One of the 5 pillars is an estate plan. Well, your options are we can find local counsel. You need to go meet with them. You need to go through the process. You need to pay those attorney fees. Now, for the people that fit the Encore model, they're a low enough asset amount. They're not disinheriting children. There's a handful of those questions. Then it's the idea of saying, look, Encore provided all these resources. There's hundreds of them. There's 5 main ones that are used in this process. The first one being called estate planning or introduction to estate planning. It's 5 questions. It's who are the beneficiaries going to be? How are they going to get those shares, right? Are there any restrictions on it? Who are going to make healthcare choices if I'm in the hospital? Who do I want financial decision making to be? And who are the guardians of my kids? Those are what the 5 areas to talk about as an independent person before I even look at doing an estate plan. So you have all these resources. Your work is purely building process around that. With more than 60% of the country having no documentation in place, we need to just build systems. And what Encore would like to provide to you is attorneys that you can just use those attorneys. Encore makes no money when you go utilize any of those law firms through us. You can just go work directly with them and get any documents done. Or you can do documents in Encore and utilize that attorney network for it. So I think as you build out systems, one of the things to always think about is what is an estate plan and how do I complete it? And what I have talked about and what I always will talk about is an estate plan requires 3 steps. And I am very sorry, but I believe if you don't do all 3 of these steps, then you haven't really completed your estate plan. Creation of documents, funding of documents, and notifying and educating everybody who was named in those documents. And what I always talked about, if I was talking to an individual person when I was acting as an attorney with a client doing an estate plan, when I talk about creating documents, if they chose a trust, then that trust is like a safe. I'm creating this safe. That document is just a safe. And it doesn't really do anything for protecting things or being able to pass things down unless beneficiaries aren't transferring their assets retitled into it or homes titled into the trust with recording those actual deeds. And Encore, maybe you want to work with only attorneys. We love that for you. If you have attorney relationships that you feel confident with and they're providing that's great. We also are happy to introduce you to other attorneys along the way. But you still need to get those trusts funded and then notify and educate people that are named in it because you don't want all these safes in the closet filled with stuff that no one knows it exists. So the one thing that I'd like to share as well is if you have great systems in place and you don't need document creation, that's great. Encore is happy to provide deed preparation as a standalone service through that process as well. And there's a lot of people that come to us, and Diego will probably start building that process in here as well. I'm going to work through 2,400 clients. There's going to be a lot of people that already had documents done, but you would be surprised of how many hundreds and thousands of families have trust documents, but they have a deed that was handed to them, the notarized from the attorney, and no one ever recorded it from 6 years ago. Encore can handle just creating that deed and actually going to the county to record it. So Diego, I really want to thank you for all of your time jumping in today. What I'd like to leave people with is if you go to, I'll have our team drop it here in the chat below and we'll send a follow-up email. But EncorEstateplans.com, it's free to create an account right at the top there for you at any time. In order to do estate planning, you got to spend some time learning about it. You got to do the disclosures. You got to disqualify plans that don't fit. Learn how to include counsel when it's required for you. But if you're going to do it, anything related to estate planning, please remember it requires creating documents, funding documents, and notifying and educating. Don't just have a client that creates a document and no one funds anything inside of it and no one tells anyone about it. that is a very deep false sense of security for that person thinking everything is great because I have this expensive binder. That's like me buying a new big safe for $10,000 at the store and I never put anything into it. It looks great, it's shiny, it's sitting there, but I didn't actually do anything with it. So, yeah, Diego, I don't know if you have any last words for us here.
Thank you guys for being able to have me here. And like I said, I think the biggest thing is this is viewing estate planning. It is a very powerful tool, and that we have realized it's a relationship deepening tool and service because we ensure that everything we've already set up is also protected. Your legacy for you and your loved ones, whoever you're leaving your assets to, is truly important. And the other thing, I really loved one of the comments that they had put there: perfection can be the enemy of progress. Matt said it on a very great way. And even more general, be like Nike and just do it. That's really what it's going to come down to. It's such an amazing service that you can provide over to your clients that if you're hesitating, this is your confirmation that you should go ahead and already have that conversation, be able to know more about. Encore does a phenomenal job of putting what you were saying, the knowledge-based questions, going through that, the frequently asked questions that educated me, educated my team to make sure that we can have those services at an excellent manner. If you were hesitating and you weren't really sure, you should definitely go down this route, be working with Encore and be able to provide that service and build that trust with your clients. It's definitely a benefit for them, but also for your firm.
Yeah, Diego, thanks so much. And everybody who made it all the way 50 minutes into this, we appreciate your time in this busy season. I want to wish everybody happy holidays, Merry Christmas. And we have other webinars that are posted. Go create an account for free at Encore. Go check out resources about estate planning. Our mission here is to help more families to actually have completed and funded documents. And if you just need resources to help educate, even when they're working with local attorneys, that's great. We want to support you in that. So thank you so much for being a part of this webinar, joining us. And Diego, I couldn't thank you more for your partnership. And we hope that everybody can share an estate plan with someone over the holidays that maybe pushes them along and stop procrastination. Thanks so
Absolutely.
much.